It's like every time you learn one framework, there are 3 more right behind it.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep up in the programming world.
Absolutely.
So that's what this deep dive is about,
Right.
staying up to date.
That's good.
So you sent in this Algo Academy post about staying updated in programming.
Right.
And there's a ton of information here.
Yeah.
But let's dive in. I
Right.
think one of the first things that they talk about here is why it matters.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, just kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, just learn what you need for your job.
Right, exactly. And, there's always that pressure to be the expert.
Right.
But what they talk about here is it's not just about being a better programmer. It's also about problem solving and career growth.
Absolutely.
And even potentially becoming a thought leader in your space.
Yeah. I like that they mention community engagement.
Right.
Because the more you learn, the more you can give back.
Absolutely. So where do we even begin with all of this? Well, they have a really good tip here, and it's starting with official documentation.
Okay.
Like language websites and release notes, the things that come straight from the source. And I think it's so easy to overlook this.
Yeah.
It can be kind of dry and technical sometimes to read.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But you're going straight to the source.
That's a great point.
Instead of like reading maybe a blog post about it or something that could potentially have misinformation.
Exactly. You want to get straight to the source.
Right. And they even give a tip about regularly checking Python's What's New section.
Okay.
And even setting up email alerts when new versions drop.
Right.
So I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
Now, I like this one too because I am terrible at this RSS feeds.
Ah, yes.
So
very useful.
They're so useful, especially for tracking various updates from different sources.
Absolutely.
Without having to get, a ton of emails.
Exactly.
So that's a really good tip.
I like that.
So let's talk about online developer communities.
Okay.
So these are places like Stack Overflow, Reddit, GitHub, Discord, Slack, all these different places where developers hang out and talk.
Right.
And it's not just about passively scrolling.
Right.
You have to actively participate.
That's the key.
So asking questions, answering questions,
sharing your knowledge.
Right. And I've had so many times where I've been like banging my head against the wall.
Yeah, me too.
Like, what is going on?
Totally.
And then I find a Stack Overflow thread.
Yeah.
And someone had the same exact problem.
Happens all the time.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you.
It's a lifesaver.
Yes.
Yeah. And even on the flip side, like answering a question really cements that knowledge for you.
Absolutely.
Because you have to think about it clearly enough to explain it to someone else.
I mean, sometimes you don't even realize you don't know something.
That's true.
Until you try and explain it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about conferences and meetups. These are the in-person ones.
Right.
And these are awesome because you just get like surrounded by
passionate people.
All these passionate developers. You're just soaking up knowledge, meeting people.
It's a great energy.
It is a great energy.
Yeah.
But they can be overwhelming.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how do you even choose which ones to go to?
Especially now.
Right.
That there's so many.
There are so many.
And they can be expensive.
They can.
Yeah.
So I think the key is doing research.
Absolutely.
And they talk about language-specific events like PyCon, Java.io, RubyConf.
Those are great for specific languages.
They are.
But also, there are more general ones that cover different like emerging trends.
Absolutely.
So yeah, you really have to look at the speaker list,
the
topics, see what interests you.
See if it aligns with your goals.
Exactly.
And also with the rise of virtual conferences, we have even more options.
We do.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So next we're going to talk about learning from the giants in the field.
Okay.
Like Guido van Rossum.
Oh, wow.
The creator of Python, Anders Hallsberg.
Okay.
The mind behind TypeScript. Huge names. These are the people that like we kind of idolize in the programming world. So obviously you're not going to be able to have coffee with them every day.
Yeah.
Unfortunately not.
But you can follow them on social media, blogs, podcasts.
And get a little glimpse into how they think.
Yeah. Right. And so they were talking about how like Guido van Rossum will talk about the evolution of Python. And then Anders Hallsberg will talk about language principles.
Interesting.
And things like that.
So you're seeing not just the what,
but
the why behind the languages.
Absolutely. And it's like having a mentor right in your pocket.
Right there with you.
So now that we've learned all this stuff, what do we do with it?
Right.
The Algo Academy article says, take action.
Like, set up a sandbox environment where you can just experiment without the fear of breaking something.
It's like a little playground.
Exactly. And they talk about using a Node.js environment to test out new ECMAScript features.
Okay.
And you can just play with the code there and see how it actually works. So it's not just about reading about it.
Right.
It's about actually trying it out.
I like that.
And I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
But we're all busy people. So how do we learn efficiently when there's just so much information out there?
It's overwhelming sometimes.
It really is.
Yeah.
So the article talks about curated learning, newsletters, and podcasts.
Right.
These are like your filter for the fire hose of information.
Yeah, they pick out the best stuff for you.
They do.
Yeah.
So they talk about newsletters like JavaScript Weekly, Python Weekly, podcasts like Changelog, Software Engineering Daily.
Those are
and they do the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, they really do.
So you don't have to.
And they're curated, so you know it's going to be good quality stuff.
Exactly.
And I have a tip for the podcasts.
Okay.
Use an app that lets you speed up the playback.
Okay.
You can listen to them faster.
Gotcha.
And still get all the information.
So you can save time.
Exactly.
But now let's talk about something else.
Okay.
Career goals. Because staying up to date isn't just about intellectual curiosity.
Right.
It's about staying relevant in the job market.
Absolutely.
So, you know, they talk about checking job boards.
Okay.
And reading developer surveys like the ones from Stack Overflow, JetBrains, GitHub.
Those are good ones.
To see what employers are looking for and see what skills are in demand.
Like, is there a new language coming up that everyone wants?
Exactly. Or are there certain frameworks that people don't use anymore?
Right.
So it's really important to keep up with that stuff.
Definitely.
And then they talk about the practical side of things too, like code reviews and pair programming.
Yeah.
And, you know, we kind of think of those as just like work tasks sometimes.
Yeah, just part of the job.
But they can really be valuable learning experiences because you're getting feedback.
Right.
You're seeing how other people do things.
And you have to explain your thought process.
Right.
Which is a really good exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So now we have all these great strategies. How do we actually implement them?
Yeah.
They suggest setting personal learning goals.
Okay.
So you're not just like passively absorbing information.
Right.
You're actively taking steps to direct your learning journey.
So have a plan.
Right.
Have a roadmap.
And they even give an example. They're like, aim to learn one new programming language each year.
That's ambitious.
It is.
But it's a good goal.
It is. Yeah. And you can break it down into smaller steps.
You don't have to learn the whole language overnight.
Right. Like start with the basics and then maybe move on to like specific frameworks or libraries that interest you.
Exactly.
And remember, the most effective goals are the ones that align with what you want to do.
Yeah. What are you interested in? What are your aspirations?
Absolutely.
What do you want to get out of this?
Okay. So Git,
yes.
our favorite.
Sometimes our nemesis.
It's more than just version control.
It is.
It's a way to stay up to date.
Okay.
So the article is encouraging us to think beyond using it just for our own projects and follow the repositories of the languages and frameworks that we use.
Gotcha.
Watch the discussions, the issues.
Yeah.
And even contribute to open source projects.
Right.
So you can see how the language is evolving.
Yeah.
And you can also learn from other people's code.
And the problems they're facing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a tip for using Git that I actually didn't know about.
Oh.
They're talking about using the git blame command.
Okay.
So you can see like the history of a particular line of code.
Interesting.
So like who made those decisions and why they did it.
So you can kind of see the evolution of that code.
Exactly.
Wow. I've never used that.
I know. I need to check it out.
Me too.
All right. So we can't end this part of the deep dive without talking about side projects. Now, I know
we're all busy.
We're all busy.
Yeah.
But they're so important.
They are.
Because you can really put all of this learning into practice. And they use the example of building a command line tool in Rust as a good way to practice memory safety and concurrency features.
Yeah.
And they're like your personal coding laboratories.
It's your space to experiment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much just from working on my own little website.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one last thing. We're living in the age of AI.
We are.
And it's changing the way we code.
Absolutely.
So the article talks about AI-powered coding assistants like GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, IDE extensions.
Yeah, all these tools that can help us.
They can be really incredible for like learning new features,
right,
generating code snippets, even explaining complex concepts.
like having a coding buddy.
Right, in your IDE.
Yeah.
There's always a but, right?
Right, we can't just like totally rely on these things.
Yeah.
We can't just blindly copy and paste. We still have to understand what the code is doing.
Exactly.
So think of it as like augmenting your skills.
Yeah.
Not replacing them.
Absolutely.
You're still the one in control.
Right. So we've talked about official documentation, AI coding buddies.
Yeah.
What else does this Algo Academy post have to offer us?
Well, it talks about engaging with technical content.
Okay.
But in a more active way.
All right.
So not just reading blogs and articles, but actually contributing to the conversation.
You mean writing our own blogs? Isn't
Yeah.
that kind of intimidating?
It can be, but it's really rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like this. Reading a blog post is like watching someone cook a meal.
Okay.
But writing a blog post is like creating the recipe yourself.
I see what you mean.
You have to really understand the ingredients and the process.
Right.
And you're sharing your knowledge with the world.
Yeah.
And potentially helping someone else learn something new.
Absolutely.
So they recommend reading blogs from companies like Google, Microsoft, Mozilla.
Okay.
But also from individual developers, too.
That's a good idea.
Just to get different perspectives, see how people are approaching real-world problems.
Yeah. I think it's really easy to get stuck in your own little bubble.
Totally.
Like just the things that you work on every day.
Yep.
So reading what other people are doing can really open your mind.
Expand your horizons.
Right.
And don't be afraid to share your own experiences.
Yeah.
Even if you think they're basic.
Right.
Someone else might be struggling with the very thing that you've already figured out.
So true.
You never know who you might inspire.
This Algo Academy article is awesome.
It is.
It's like a toolkit.
Yeah.
A philosophy.
It's a whole roadmap for staying updated.
Right.
It is.
What are some of the key takeaways for you?
Well, I think the biggest one for me is that it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not a destination.
Right. It's not about knowing everything.
It's about having that mindset of curiosity.
Absolutely.
Always being willing to learn and adapt.
And, you know, they even mention Algo Academy.
Right.
Like right in the post.
It's a great resource.
Or a really valuable resource.
But sharpening your skills.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Imagine you're in a job interview.
Right.
And the hiring manager asks, what are you doing to stay current in the field?
That's a good one.
What do you say?
Well, I think I would start by talking about how I stay up to date with official documentation and release notes, just to show that I'm serious about keeping up with the latest features and best practices. And I would definitely mention engaging in online communities.
Right.
Talking about how I contribute to discussions, help others solve problems.
Yeah.
And learn from the experiences of other developers.
It's not just about what you know.
Right. It's about how you participate in the learning process.
Right. I could even mention my personal learning goals, like, you know, aiming to learn a new language every year or whatever it is.
That shows you're proactive.
Right. And driven.
Yeah.
And if you've worked on side projects
Absolutely.
to show off, you know, new technology.
You may bring those up.
It's all about painting a picture of someone who is enthusiastic about continuous learning.
Yeah, someone who's committed.
And committed to staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
So it's not just about like listing buzzwords.
Right.
It's about conveying that passion.
Yeah, they want to see that you're genuinely excited about learning. Hiring managers are looking for developers who are not just skilled, but also adaptable, curious, eager to grow.
We've talked a lot about the how of staying updated.
Yeah.
But why does it even matter?
That's a good question.
Like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, why should we care?
Why should we put all this effort in?
I think it's because we're not just writing code.
Okay.
We're shaping the future.
Wow.
The software we create impacts lives in countless ways.
Yeah.
From the apps we use daily to the systems that power our infrastructure.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Yeah.
And technology is advancing so quickly that it's more important than ever to stay ahead of the curve.
Right.
So by continuously learning and evolving, we ensure that the software we create is innovative, ethical, and beneficial to society.
We have a duty to keep learning.
I think so.
Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who uses the technology we build.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And we're not alone in this journey.
Right.
We have a wealth of resources.
All of it. Yeah.
And a supportive community to help us along the way.
This is making me so excited to keep learning. It's not about being overwhelmed by the pace of change.
It's about embracing the adventure.
Absolutely.
And using it to fuel our passion and creativity.
Well said. And as we continue this deep dive, into the Algo Academy blog post. Let's keep that spirit of adventure in mind.
Absolutely. There's always more to discover, more to learn, and more ways to grow.
Okay, so we're back.
Yeah.
For the final part of our deep dive
Yeah.
into this awesome Algo Academy blog post about staying updated. I feel like we've learned so much.
We have.
What really stood out to you?
You know what I really appreciate about this article?
Yeah.
Is how it, puts the power in the individual's hands.
Okay.
It recognizes that, everybody learns differently.
Right.
We all have different goals, different constraints.
Different styles.
So it's not about finding, one right way to do it.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you.
It's about finding your own path.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
if I could just leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
It would be, don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Step outside your comfort zone. Try new things.
Find new languages.
Yeah, explore different frameworks.
Yeah, just have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. The programming world is a vast and exciting playground.
Hey.
There's so much to discover.
It's like...
Don't limit yourself to what you already know.
To just what you use at work every day.
Right.
Yeah. And, it's not about taking these huge leaps all the time.
Yeah, even small steps can lead to big progress.
Right.
So whether that's reading a technical article each day, attending a local meetup, contributing to an open source project.
Contributing to open source is huge.
It is.
Yeah.
Every little bit adds up.
It all adds up.
Over time.
It's about consistency.
Absolutely.
Like building those habits.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's a great way to put it.
And the key is to enjoy the journey.
Right.
To find joy in the process of learning and growth.
It's so easy to get caught up in the pressure.
To know everything.
Right.
To be the expert.
But ultimately...
It's really about the love of the craft.
Yes.
The thrill of building something new.
Right.
The satisfaction of solving problems.
That's it.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, just remember this.
Yeah.
You have the power to shape your own learning journey.
Okay.
You have the resources, the community.
Yeah.
And most importantly...
What's that?
The curiosity.
Yes.
To thrive.
We need that curiosity.
Absolutely.
In this ever-changing world.
Of programming.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this Algo Academy article was amazing.
It was a good one.
It gave us so much to think about.
Lots of strategies to explore.
I feel inspired.
That's great to hear.
To learn some new things.
Go forth and code.
Right.
With confidence.
So that wraps up this deep dive.
It does.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned some valuable tips.
That's for
staying updated.
Until next time.
Happy coding!
Happy coding!